So, to begin, stand comfortably. But to have your feet directly below your hips. Imagine parallel lines going down through the sides. You could do that from, if you like, the outside of the legs, so you go down to the outside of your ankle, or maybe the inside. There's a bit of variation possible there. But you want to feel that the legs are supporting you. If your feet are close together, it's possible to root down, and we do sometimes do this, but it's also gets to be a bit wobbly. It feels as though you're standing on top of a pole or something like that. So to begin with, just this feeling of settling through your body, weight a little bit forwards, hips gently sinking back, feeling of softening and releasing that we'll come back to in a few moments in hips, knees. Try not to hold your knees in a locked position. And then start turning gently in the middle of your body. So the area between hips and waist, think of it as being like the hub of a wheel. When you turn the hub of the wheel, all of the spokes will move. So think of your arms as being like the spokes of the wheel. You're not trying to move them, but you're not trying to stop them moving. As you warm up and loosen up a little bit, just let your attention come into your body, feeling the play of the big muscles in your back and your sides as they expand and contract. Try not to tense up so that we have a little space for that movement of the muscles. They shouldn't be fighting against each other just to move. That sense of spaciousness is one of the qualities that I would attribute to the postures that we take in Tai Chi, to allow a sense of movement within the body, movement of the body fluids, movement of the various muscles like the tissues that will be expanding, contracting, and just the overall sense of movement through the whole body, what we might think of as the momentum or the energy of the movement. Let your body settle into a nice steady rhythm. These are all qualities that we want to try and maintain through all of the exercises. It can get quite complicated in some of the exercises though. So this is more than just a physical warm-up. It's a chance to begin to bring to the surface the various factors, the various ingredients that we want to get to find blending and supporting each other through the main body of exercises. Very simple, very straightforward. Trying to get a feeling of your weight sinking, rooting down, moving from your center, moving in such a way that we don't begin to strain in our upper body. So we keep the sense of sinking, we keep the sense of spaciousness within the movement. And the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders. And again, we're not trying to move our arms, but we're not trying to stop them moving either. They're just following for the moment. And that gives quite a distinctive quality within our arms, one that we will add to, but that we don't want to lose. So I suppose you could say, in a way, what we're doing now becomes the background to everything that we do in Tai Chi. And there's going to be other things that we will focus on, but we want to establish the background first. This exercise also has a very gentle aerobic element to it. So there's many aspects to this exercise that I think are very useful. Now, turn your hands palm out, raise them up a little bit, no higher than your shoulders. You'll notice that my elbows are lower. So now we're trying to maintain a shape, but at the same time, keep that sense of the background movement. Then letting your hands drop down. Turn one foot out, put the other foot forwards. Keep the width of your step. Step about the same distance forwards. Now, very similar, but we're moving our weight forwards and backwards. So bringing in another very important element in many of the movements that we do, and in Tai Chi in general, which is this transfer of the weight. Trying to moderate the movement so we don't end up going too far. It's really quite a small movement. I'm feeling that as we move, the center of our body responds by usually turning towards the angle of the foot that we're moving into. So here on the front, I'm facing forwards. On the back, I'm facing more to the side. You may find that you're turning the opposite way. It happens with some people. It may be that it's just a lack of awareness, so you may be able to change it easily, but it may be that there's some stiffness and tightness there, in which case don't force the direction, because what you might do then is risk reinforcing that tightness. And then with the other foot forwards, same thing. And again, a nice steady rhythm. And shake out. A key aspect here is the awareness of what we're doing. So all the time we're concerned with posture and the intricacies of movement. We're also training our attention into our body. I sometimes use the idea that our bodies offer our minds a quiet place to rest, a sense of stillness and spaciousness in the mind as well. And the awareness that comes with that quieting down, the awareness of our posture, means that we can begin to work more effectively with refining our posture over a period of time. So back to the parallel stance, and just begin to roll your weight forwards and backwards. So your weight moves in your feet, from the front of your feet back towards your heels. If you go too far, obviously that's going to happen. So once again, we begin to get a sense of how far is appropriate to move. I'll show you with this pole. If you imagine this pole being inside my body as a kind of center line there, then this is what's happening. You can see, as much as possible, my body's maintaining that line. I'm not doing this or this or anything like that, just a gentle rolling of the weight forwards and then backwards, roughly speaking, you want to feel that your weight goes forwards towards the balls of your feet and back towards your heels. One of the images commonly used in Tai Chi is that we move through water. And if you imagine doing this in water, there'll be a little bit of resistance to the movement, but a resistance that encourages you to not stiffen up, but it changes. So when you go forwards, you feel the pressure of the water against the front of your body. And when you go back, you can feel the pressure of the water against your back. So there's this very subtle change within your body. Once again, bringing your attention into your body, training your attention to settle, to ground itself in your body. Now, in theory, practice is always different, but in theory, I could place this stick there, this pole there, and find a position for it where it was completely upright and I could just walk away from it and leave it there. In practice, that's going to be very difficult. What you're doing at the moment is this, and side to side. Now start to see if you can find that point of equilibrium, that point where gravity works down through your body, through the pole, straight into the ground. It's not necessarily a fixed point for the whole time, but just recognize that the possibilities and the change that takes place when gravity pulls us down into our feet, rather than forwards or backwards, we take away at least some of the need for tension and stiffness within the body. And just see if you can come to rest there. And forwards a bit so I can show you something. And ideally, that point will be just behind the ball of each foot, giving a slight angle forwards, and then just allowing your hips to drop back. I've exaggerated this a bit. You don't need to do this much at this point. As though you're sitting on the edge of a wall or something like that. Just resting down, letting your center of gravity drop. Now, to come into that posture, this little exercise, we're going to start with shoulders, chest, and upper back. And what you want to try and do, it's very gentle. So you want to just pull in a little bit, tighten up a little bit. That's not the point of the exercise. The point is that when we release that pulling in, we get a certain set of sensations in the body. Sometimes a sense of dropping down in our shoulders, a sense of, again, space developing. And also after a while, the sense that as you do that, as you release that tightness and stiffness, there is still support within your body. If you think about your rib cage, for instance, if you tighten up the pectoral muscles and your back muscles and then release them, the rib cage is still there, the chest cavity is still there. You don't actually need that tightness, that stiffness to maintain that. Then do the same thing around about here, the middle of the body. So lower back, belly, hips and buttocks, and maybe even down into your thighs and your knees. Again, stiffen up and then release. Stiffen up and release. And again, this sense of a flowing movement inwards and downwards. And so this is what we call rooting down, the sense of our weight moving downwards, our center of gravity dropping. Again, try not to stiffen up in your knees, but you'll find that when you release in your hips, the knees quite naturally soften. So there's just a slight curve at the moment in your knees. And then the next time you get that sense of softening, you feel the downward movement, let that draw your hips a little bit further back and down. And then push up to that top position. Don't lock your knees back. And sinking back and pushing up. So this movement starts with that feeling of releasing in hips and lower back, letting go if you prefer the term. And then we get the physical movement downwards, and then we start to feel the push up. So through the process of releasing, we start off a cycle of movement, a cycle of energy down towards the ground, and then feeling the response of our body, particularly our legs, from the ground beneath your feet, pushing you up again until gravity takes over and we suffer, we yield to the pull of gravity. When you expanding and contracting. This is one of the most important dynamic cycles, energetic cycles in Tai Chi. And it's a constant. Gravity is constantly with us. And we constantly want to allow gravity through our body rather than resist it in a fight that we're going to lose. So another very fundamental point here. Bring your hands around as though you're cradling a ball, pushing up and sinking down. So your hips going up, your upper body expanding, your elbows going out, and then turning your hands as though they're draped over the ball now. But again, you're in water, you drop your hips as though you're trying to press the ball down in the water. This is the exercise rooting down. And the root is a physical dropping of your weight and the source of that upward movement. The lower your center of gravity, the more stable you are. So the combination of that alignment with the pull of gravity, that feeling of being able to release stiffness and tightness in your body, and the physical dropping of your center of gravity, the rooting down, all work together to once again give us this feeling of more space within the body, more space for that movement. And they give us a posture that is automatically more stable. It makes this a very important exercise, a very simple exercise. A couple of variations on this. Turn your hands palm out. Push your arms out to the side. This is the exercise called the wild goose. So again, using an image to stimulate equality within the body. If the image is a useful one to you, doesn't work for everybody. No image will work for everybody. Our body has an enormous capacity to respond to images of all sorts. Memories, and ideas, and external images. And so this is one of the ways that we develop this engagement of our minds with our bodies. There's an overlap between mind and body where they can influence and support each other. One more time. Second variation is let your hands drop down, all the way down this time, crossing in front of your belly, pushing up. Listen the expansion, push your fingers out, and then the contraction, bringing them down. This is heart in the clouds. Expansions through your body, moving your arms for you. The muscles of your arms giving a shape to the energy that is already there. Do one more. And then going back to the first of these exercises, rooting down and bringing these three movements together in a little sequence. And as you get used to the sequence, don't worry if you get a bit out of order, but try and keep the order. Hands down, turn your hands out into the wild goose. And as we become more familiar with this, just aware of the subtle changes within your body. Legs and hips remain the same, sinking down and pushing up, but each of these exercises, each of all the exercises, carries with it a combination of joint movements, patterns of movement with all the other exercises, but also has its own unique qualities, resonances, pathways within the body. And those of you more familiar with those internal patterns will find again that our intention, our minds, become influential in producing these movements. More round. This time, as your hands come down, let them drop down to your sides again, feeling the weight of your arms by your sides. And then as you push up, one arm reaching up. This is called Dragon Plucks the Stars from the Sky. Rolling your fingers around and then pulling down. Let your attention move gently to the opposite side of your body, expanding. This plucking movement and contracting. Don't rush the changeover. Try and finish each stage of the movement fully before you move on to the next. One more time. Stand again for a moment. So it's not in a deep posture here, but we do still have that feeling of hips dropping back, soft in hips and knees. Remember, gravity is always acting on you. The question is, can we allow it a free flow through the body? And if we can do that, we also become aware that there's again that response in our body. So for the next couple of exercises, maintaining this posture, not going up and down in our hips, but not locking our knees, not locking our hips. Starting with your hands at your sides. They come around in front slightly, pressing up just a little bit above your head, soften your shoulders, and then back down. Coming back, bringing your hands to the center of the body, and then expanding again, and this time pushing your hands out to the sides a little bit and turning gently. Doesn't matter which way you turn first, and back. And then turning in the other direction. and back, and facing forwards and pushing out. With this, we find again one of those key factors, Tai Chi key elements. Again, pushing up, starting the whole cycle again. That's the turning in the center. I push my arms out to the sides and I turn my body, and that changes the direction of my arms. So that movement coming up from the feet and from the ground is directed through the center of the body, through the hub of the wheel. Again, that rhythm of expansion and contraction, nice and steady. You may find that you're tightening up, and a good place in these movements to look for that feeling of releasing, of letting go of tightness, is in the contracting stage. Ideally, we would feel it all the time, of course, but it doesn't always work that way. One more round. This is pushing in 4 directions. Then letting your hands drop down again, feeling the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders. Now one hand swinging out, again an expansion through the side of your body, but your arm curving out and up till it's in line with your nose, with the center line of your body, and straight out. And again, try not to stiffen up in your shoulder. Then once again, the focus of your attention in the center of your body. When the hand gets on top, just turn a little bit. Bring your head down. Yeah. Change sides. Notice any difference between one side and another. So quite often is. And then, if it's comfortable, add in the turn. Okay. And come back to the starting position. Give your legs a shake. Most of what we do is done in this upright stance, but the next two movements take us out of that. How we do that is very important. So here, for instance, if I'm standing here and I just lean forwards, again, my center of gravity goes forwards and fall over, or I have to take a step. It can be useful sometimes, but it's not what we're doing here. So be very careful of your knees, be very careful of your back, and recognize I'm going to do this quite big so that you can see what I'm doing. It doesn't have to be a big movement though. What I'm going to do is tilt my pelvis forward so my hips go back and you see my upper body angles. And then to come to the upright position, I let my hips drop back and I push up. So I don't strain in my upper body to come to the upright position. I let gravity pull my hips down, bring me gently to the upright. I'll show you this with the pole. I keep this awareness of the straight line in the back of my mind. I move out of that line, just moving about a little bit, but you get the idea. And then my hips dropping back, bring me back to that alignment, and I push up. When you use that movement, so it's an example of how the center of the body affects not only our horizontal movements, but our vertical alignment as well. Two exercises we will do from this. The first, your arms coming up a little bit and then following the movement forwards. This is called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. One more time. And this time, when you come up, let your hands come palm down in front of your hips. Turn in one direction, then push your hips back. Swing round in the other way and come back to the center. This is called polishing the table. Once again, seeing the significance of that movement, the center part of your body, the hub of the wheel. One more time in each direction. Good. And then just come back to standing and loosen up your back and your shoulders. Just swinging your arms around again, turning in the center of your body. So increasingly, we bring the attention to that center part of our body, and that becomes almost a kind of position of quietness, of restfulness for our attention. And shake out. We're going to change the stance. We're going to go back to this forward stance with 1 foot forwards. Start with your feet parallel and try and get a feeling that you're standing on parallel lines. I'll show you, for instance, this on the other. I'll just put this stick down here, you can see, if I straighten it up. If I stand like this, then that stick is in the middle of my stance. Still haven't got it straight. There we go. There. Now, when I step forwards, what I want to do is I step to here. If I step too narrow, I'm stepping on the stick. And worst case scenario is I'm trying to balance on the stick. So we look for a wider stance than we would normally take, but a shorter stance as well. So you can imagine either the single stick or the parallel lines. We sometimes refer to them as tram lines. Turn one foot out. This is an angle you can play about with, but with the foot that's stepping forwards, toes are pointing straight forwards. Your hips drop a little bit. So again, that sense of sitting, your hips releasing. And just begin to move your weight a little bit from one foot to another again. This time trying to be a bit more precise about the weight distribution. When you go forwards, you go for about 60% of your weight in the front leg. When your weight's more in the back, it's more like 70 or up to 70. And also, remember, you're still trying to get a sense of dropping downwards, that releasing in your hips, allowing the pull of gravity through your body, allowing the response of your body, the springiness in your legs to come up through your legs. But this time, instead of pushing you up, it's going to push you forwards or backwards. Again, a very, very important movement. The transfer of your weight actually has a massive influence on our mobility and stability. Trying to align yourself over each leg. When you go back into the rear foot this time, gently raise the front toes and more of your weight goes into the back leg. You can have the front foot turned out here. Push the back knee forwards. More of the weight goes down through the front leg. Just be careful of your knees here. Remember, we want hips and knees to soften to allow the weight to go through into the foot, into the ground, rather than to stiffen up in our knees so that they end up carrying the weight of our body. Gradually, more and more of your weight going in to the supporting leg. Again, if I show you this with pole, what we're trying to do, and you won't quite be there yet, is to move that pole with us until we get to a point where really all or most of our weight is flowing down through the supporting leg. And then what we do, you can just bring your foot in and you can say, I've got the alignment there. Same thing here. So if you can use this image of that center line of your body, it can really help with your stability. Take your time with this. Because it's a shorter step and because it's a slow step, we have no need to lean forwards as something that we may well do in ordinary walking. Give your legs a shake. Do the same thing with the other foot forwards. Turn one foot out, go into the hip width step, hip length. It's about the same. Transferring your weight 70% into your back foot, and when you go forwards, 60% to begin with. To begin with, your upper body rests on your hips. It sits on your hips. But again, particularly people who are more familiar with this, if you use this image of moving through water, as though the air was thicker around you, you'll realize that there's interesting subtle changes in your upper body as well. There's really, in reality, there's no such thing as a lower body and an upper body. There's no clear dividing line here. Then again, raising toes and heel. And then stepping in. When you step forwards, put your heel down, lower your toes, and then move the weight. When you step back, it's the ball of your foot goes down and then your heel. We refer to this as planting the foot. And then whichever direction you've got the space in, step through. So when we plant something, we do so with a bit of care and attention. And in the same way, we're wanting to apply that care and attention to our foot. Another image is that you're walking in the sea, particularly if it's on the currents of the sea are moving the seabed around, the sand or the pebbles. And you're being very careful about each foot you put down and not committing your weight until you're comfortable with the step. Change direction if you haven't done so already. And then bring your feet parallel. Now we're going to use both the weight transfer and the stepping to build up other movements. The transfer of your weight again is one of the principal energies in Tai Chi. It'll be that which moves your arms, but it'll be the center of your body that gives shape, that gives direction to the arms. Have your right foot forward, so mirror my movements. Now, move your weight forwards, but leave your hands behind for a moment. And then as you settle in the front foot, let your arms swing through. Same idea going back. Again, if you imagine you're in water, this would be quite a natural way for your arms to move. This is called fisherman cast the net. You're facing forwards, you're moving forwards and backwards. Your arms are swinging forwards and backwards. It's a very straightforward formula. As you settle into each leg and your arms swing past your hips, to see if you can bring some attention to, again, very subtle changes, patterns of expansion and contraction, your sides, your back, your shoulders, wherever else you happen to find them. So this is a very symmetrical exercise. We're going to change that now from the front position. As you come back, turn towards the back foot. Other than that, it's going to be the same. You go forwards and turn. So now we tend to feel that expansion more on one side. I tend to feel the expansion more here. So that will be the side on the left. And then here. Notice that your arms are curving down. And then naturally swing up. You don't have to lift the arms, but that expansion in your body definitely helps to move them. So this time, building on that, imagine the expansion increasing, pushing your arms up, turn them palm forwards, move your weight forwards, turn, letting your hands come down across the front hip, turning, expanding in the right side of your body, and then back. And we end up with the arms coming through in a figure of eight movement, a sideways figure of eight, or if you prefer, you could think of the infinity sign that they use in physics and mathematics, or maybe even a slightly rounded X shape. Don't overextend your arms or let them go up too high. This time, come forwards, pushing your back knee forwards, raise your back heel, and bring that foot in. And then step back, bring your hands back, raise your toes, bring the front foot in, step out, plant the foot. And so you just put your toes down. You can do a little bit of a posture check here. Hips parallel, pelvis parallel, hips hanging back. And what you may find you're able to do, don't do this if you feel uncertain about it, is you bring the foot in and you raise the knee up. Again, making sure that when you bring your knee up, you're not tilting your pelvis. Bring the foot in, raise the knee. Okay, good. And shake hand. We're going to do those on the other side. So go back to the parallel stance. Imagine the lines going through your feet or through the middle of your stance, whichever is a better image for you. Stepping forwards. Stance is roughly square in dimension. And starting with your weight in the back foot, fisherman castanet. Again, we're moving forwards and backwards. You're facing forwards, your arms are swinging forwards and backwards. A wave-like quality of movement. Your back foot flowing through your back and out through your front, pushing your arms through. And the front foot back, pushing your arms back. So not only do we have the idea of moving through water, we could think of terms of moving like water, the flow, the smoothness, the dynamic quality that water can have. Fisherman casting net. This time, as you go back, you're going to turn in your hips and waist, feeling the slight change in the pattern of expansion and contraction. You soften your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, and your fingers. And then building on this into that figure of eight movement. Stepping in, just checking your posture with your toes on the floor, planting the foot forwards, drawing the foot in. It's comfortable at this point, raising your knee. Notice that there's a tendency for knees and arms to rise up together. And then you can take a few steps through again, either forwards or backwards, depends where you have the space. Don't forget, it's not a vital part of this exercise to raise your knee. So if it's making you lose the flow of the movement, then just keep your toes down here like this. I'm going out of shot, so I'm going to take a step back or I bump into the camera. One more. If you find it difficult, from a point of view, if you find that you're wobbling around when you do this, one thing you can do, and you would start really with the basic stepping, is to do it next to a wall, and just maybe just lightly touching the wall, just to give yourself that little bit of extra confidence. And then you could do that last exercise. You could do it from side to side, knowing that if you did wobble around, you can just sit back safely against the wall. Because effectively, we're trying to relax. We're trying to release, to soften into the stance to allow our center of gravity to drop. It's quite difficult to relax. You think you're going to fall over. So if you've got that security, you can begin to build a bit of confidence in these basic principles of Tai Chi and their ability to help you maintain your mobility and your stability. Now, rubbing your hands together. And starting with your face and the pads of your fingers, tapping over your face, very light. Then over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. And your arm. And on the other side. Round to the lower part of your back, one arm and both arms, stay light again there. And around your hips. And your legs. Light again on your belly. And onto the upper part of your chest. The last exercise is called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. And for me, the mountain is a lovely image of those qualities of the posture that I was talking about earlier. The strength of it, the rootedness, but the sense of stillness, the sense of spaciousness. These are qualities that we aspire to in Tai Chi. It would be nice to think we have them all the time, but the reality is that we don't. So this idea of the return, I think, is really important. We do lose these qualities, just as we lose the calmness of our minds and the focus of our attention, but we have the capacity to bring them back. So feet parallel again, sinking down as before, pushing up, arms coming up. This is the embrace in the tiger bit, hands coming around, but then just drawing in, feeling the pull of gravity through your body, hips sinking, whole body flowing downwards and settling before you push up again. And just take note of what it is that brings you back. Is it the image of the mountain or the feeling of gravity flowing downwards or some other sensation in your body? Something that you can begin to remember and recall when you feel in need of those moments of just respite, of settling physically, quietening in your mind. One more time. And stand. Nice. Shake out a bit. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, for joining in. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to contact me. I'll do my best to answer them.